Hi, I'm Helen Isherwood. I'm the quality manager at the Jopen Beer Brewery in Haarlem in the Netherlands. We are a medium-sized craft brewery. We produce about 30,000 hectoliters of beer, of craft beer. And we make, in the region of 15 to 20 different beer styles. And as an example of the types of innovations that we do, we have produced last year about 60 different types of beers.
My name is Eric van der Lucht, and I'm a brewer at the Jopen Brewery. We've got two locations. One of them is a converted church, and I brew there. And I make a bunch of these beers that Helen mentioned before.
We believe that craft beer is for everyone, and everybody has got a little bit of curiosity in them. So when we are making our beers, we want to challenge people to experiment with our beers, to try something new, and if you try something new, it's quite exciting and surprising. And we also want to make sure that the beers are very tasty. So this is our vision, our mission. So to do that, we really use a vast variety of raw materials, and we also apply technology and processes to create all the different styles and tastes that we want.
I think a lot of Dutch brewers, compared to our surrounding countries, basically, we try to experiment a lot and create different styles of beer, but we also try to stay away from the set style guides a little bit more. We're less conservative. So, for example, we make a Weizen, which is a very traditional beer style, but then we add different, more hops, for example, to make it more hoppy, or alternative grains. Some grains are not very commonly used anymore. So we try to expand that view a little bit more. And I think that's, with a lot of Dutch brewers, one of the main things.
We really like to keep up to date with technology, with new things that are happening in the beer industry. And we have various ways of doing that. We're members of the various brewers associations. But we also spend time going to conferences and exhibitions. And it was actually at the Brau Brevial in Nuremberg in Germany that we saw Oculize for the first time. And it was a very small little stand quite far away. And another of our technologists walked past and said, Helen, have a look at that stand, is interesting. And having looked at it, we were really immediately aware that this is a new technology that can really make a difference for us, because it's taking a rather complicated analysis we do in the laboratory and making it simpler so that it can be operated on the floor. So, we wanted to use this technology to help us with our fermentation. So counting yeast is not an easy thing to do. And this was really exciting to see a new technology on yeast counting. So when we saw it, we immediately made arrangements to do some trials. There's, of course, two people involved. So I'm coming in from the side of quality. And so when I started with the Oculize, my idea was to start it in the laboratory and let the laboratory learn how to use the new technology first and develop it a little bit to the company and become more experienced with it, and then move it down to the floor, because, the first, resistance is already overcome. And that was fine for the laboratory, but when we tried to bring it down to the floor, it was really difficult at floor level. And there were various reasons for that. I think Eric was maybe not at the very beginning of it, but so I just, maybe can explain that you need to have a little bit of fine handling with the Oculize. And in the laboratory, I have people there that really enjoy fine handling and spending time on making things really accurate. But the people on the floor don't have that time. They have a lot to do, and they want to have something that's immediately practical, that can immediately put to place. And so there was just a little bit of resistance that this is too difficult, it's not working. And there wasn't a lot of acceptance in the beginning. But we've moved along from there because Eric came into the picture, and maybe he can explain how Oculize, what Oculize did for him then.
I wanted to track our fermentations, and Helen had already gotten the Oculize. So I asked her and people from the lab to explain to me how the device works and how we can use it on a day-to-day basis. And like Helen said, it was a little bit of resistance there because we need to do it in between jobs. After practicing a few practice runs, it's actually quite easy to get the thing going. And then you can actually, it's less fiddly than it looked at the beginning for me. And it's actually quite practical. So now we can actually do it in between other jobs. We can do the cell counts. When we do the quality control of the beers, and it turns out to be quite nice to work with, and it's actually quite robust. So yeah, it's still hands-on, but a normal cell count is also hands-on, but is actually more accurate, and you can do it at any desktop that you like. So you don't have a fixed spot. So if you're moving between workplaces, for example, you can take it along with you and do your job there. So that's quite nice.
Yeah, so it really made a big difference when somebody really wants to get an analysis out. Then the interest is really there to try a new technology. You know, you need that the time and maybe the real motivation to get it to work.
Another thing that for me was a very very useful thing is that we didn't have to wait for the lab to give us results. We work in 2 different locations as well. So sometimes we would have to send samples to the other location where the lab is located. And then we have to wait for a result. And if the lab is busy, it takes a little bit more time. So this actually gives us the opportunity to on the floor and do it instantly.
From my point of view, from as quality manager, I'm always looking at techniques and the accuracy of techniques. And I'm aware that the Oculize is able to be, in principle, more accurate because it's simply able to measure a lot more cells in a field than what we do in the laboratory with the human eye. And if you want to do a lot of cell counting, then you really have the human element, and it takes a long time. So I think the accuracy of Oculize, the more you use it, because it's using an algorithm, if you do it in the right way, I think that that makes it more reliable. The most important thing is you have to achieve a good quality. And one of the most important things in achieving good quality is to achieve consistency.
And a similar thing for me, it's always quality over quantity. If a beer is not good and you have lots of it, then you've got a bad deal. You always have to achieve a good beer. It has to be a quality beer. And so that's an old school thing to always say, quality is key. And I think that still applies, and that will always apply.